here.
Halliburton's got the ball. Halliburton rises up. And there's a whistle. Oh, my goodness. Tyrese Halliburton hits a three and is fouled.
You have got to be kidding me.
McConnell underneath the basket. Looking. Toppin in the corner for three.
Oh, yeah! Yeah! OB!
Pacers have it, a chance to tie.
Yeah, Nembhard
hits the three. Nembhard gives Indiana the lead.
Hello and welcome back to the Pacers Fever Show. My name is Logan. I'm the host of this podcast. And boy, do we have an episode for you tonight. I guess it'll be released early in the morning. So you're probably listening to this on Wednesday morning after a Pacers win. They win 119-118 to eliminate the Milwaukee Bucks from the 2025 NBA playoffs. And was it a game? I mean, everything happened in this game, from an epic comeback, terrible basketball by the Pacers, probably worse basketball by the Bucks as overtime comes to an end and the Pacers are celebratory on the home floor. But this game had it all. We've had some scuffles. We had some dogs going after each other. It was something that it was a playoff game that I won't soon forget. So many things happened. The way that it ended, I think we will all remember for a very long time. And I'm hoping that this Pacer playoff run continues deeper and deeper into the playoffs, because what a story this would be, this Game 5 matchup against the Bucks and Pacers, longtime rivals. And this was definitely something that I will cherish forever, just being a Pacer fan. And I hope you do too. So we're going to get into the game recap. We're going to talk about Game 5. We'll talk about slow starts and maybe some concerns that we might have heading into the next series, and what it meant for the Pacers to get that slow start in this game, because it was really bad for a very long time in that first quarter. We'll talk TJ McConnell, the importance of him in this game, and then how that could propel us forward in the playoffs as well. Gary Trent Jr., we're going to have to hit on that because he had another great game for the Bucks. This time the Pacers were able to withstand everything that the Bucks were throwing at them, and it seemed like the Pacers were on their way back to Milwaukee, which wasn't the case, which is really exciting, and looking forward to discussing that. Looking ahead to the Cavs and what that series will look like, we'll give you kind of a breakdown of when these episodes will be released, and I'm pretty sure tonight or tomorrow, when all these games end, that we'll probably see a schedule as far as what the rest of the playoffs are going to look like, what the playoffs are going to look like when the Pacers do travel to Cleveland for Game 1, and when that series will start. So we'll update you on that, and we'll do a series preview as we did with the Milwaukee Bucks series. But what a game, right? Pacer fans, I just, this whole game, I was just frustrated. The way that the Pacers played, they really didn't deserve to win this game, I didn't think. Having home court advantage is what ultimately helps them pull this off. And I think, thinking back to some of the games that they won in the regular season, where they had a 1% chance to win or 2% chance to win late in the fourth quarter. And they were able to pull it off miraculously. And, we talked about the Pacers didn't want to live like that, right? They didn't want to keep playing like that. They didn't want that to be the way that they were closing out games, to come from behind and, by 4 or 5 points in the last minute. That's really tough to do. And the odds are stacked against you in those cases. But tonight it happened again, and the Pacers pulled it off again. So again, this team's got some kind of magic, and it's been fun to watch. It's been very stressful to watch. I think people are starting to call them the cardiac Pacers. That's what it feels like. It feels like, my adrenaline's going the whole time. My heart's thumping through my chest. I was frustrated. I was angry. I was down in the dumps. I was like, man, I can't believe we're going to let this get to a Game 6, because I did feel pretty confident for the Bucks at that moment, just because AJ Green was hitting shots, Trent Green was hitting shots. I mean, it just felt like they were raining threes on this Pacers team. The Pacers didn't really have that much of an answer, especially in the first half. But I mean, they just kept clawing and clawing and clawing, and like they do, the Pacers just kept fighting, and throwing punches back at them. And that continued on until after the game. So Again, just a true testament to, I guess, this team's character and being able to stay in games like that. I think 99% of us would have quit in that moment, and probably the rest of the league as well would have quit in that moment. But these Pacers are just different, and I guess that's something that we can take away from some silver lining for, I think, a game that we want to quickly forget because the first, you know, 4 quarters were pretty forgettable. And I just felt like the overtime period, just nothing was going right. Gary Trent went on a run by himself. It just felt like it was inevitable that this was going to a game 6, possibly a game 7. And then the Pacers said, hold that for a minute because we're going to stop the Bucks right now. I guess the Buck stops now. So yeah, Tyrese Halliburton, Pacers steal one against the Milwaukee Bucks on Tuesday night. Indiana forced 2 turnovers in the final 29 seconds of overtime. Halliburton blows by Giannis Antetokounmpo for the go-ahead layup with 1.3 seconds left to give the Pacers a 119-118 victory and a 4-1 series win. Pacers closed the game on an 8-0 run after the final 40 seconds, over the 40 seconds that were left in overtime. They had an 8-0 run to eliminate the Bucks and advance to the next round against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Halliburton had 26 points, 10 assists, and improved to a 9-0 record at home in home playoff games. No. Halliburton had 26 points and 10 assists as he improved to 9-0 in home playoff games. Oh, that's because he missed. I was like, how is that possible? He lost the Bucks last year, or the Celtics last year. He wasn't around for that series. That makes sense. So he's not lost at home yet. The Pacers have in his tenure, but he was not available because of that hamstring injury. But what an incredible series as far as just a rivalry. I mean, you can think about the different rivalries in the game, and I'm not sure there's a better one right now than what the Bucks Pacers are. When you see a team almost 20 times over 2 seasons, that's inevitable. It's going to happen, but they're also division foes. And then with the Ballgate thing that really truly got it kicked off, and then Halliburton with the Dame time celebration in the in-season tournament and them knocking off the Bucks as a very young team, and the Bucks being a team that was, not far removed from their world championship. I just felt like the Pacers were the next and up and coming team, knocking the Bucks out of the way. They get the 4 seed, the Bucks get the 5 seed after the Pacers had to knock them out when they were the 3 seed last year. There was all this talk about Halliburton being overrated, Halliburton being from Milwaukee area, the Bucks not liking the Pacers in this rivalry, stemming back way back into the days of Reggie and even earlier. Just everything was setting this up to be a fantastic series, and the Bucks almost made it a really close one multiple times. I thought in multiple ways that the Bucks could have made this a very interesting series, but never really got over the hump. And the Pacers were lucky in this game 5 not to allow them back into this series once again. But kudos to the Pacers for closing this out. A really chippy game. We're going to start here by talking about this first quarter. In the first quarter, Milwaukee Bucks scored 30 points. The Pacers had 13 in that period. And let's just talk about some of the numbers. I mean, it's incredible that the Pacers were able to get back into this game just by how flat they came out. And it was truly concerning because it felt like the Pacers went ahead, and I texted my dad and brother are both Pacer fans. So I texted them, right? I was talking about, what was going wrong and something I was thinking about. And I don't want to make excuses, and it's not that I'm making excuses, and the players probably wouldn't want to hear this anyway. But it does seem like, there is still that inexperience, and especially at a level where the Pacers last year didn't have really a series that they were this far ahead and just looking to absolutely slam the door on. They went game 7 against the Bucks at Madison Square Garden. It was game 6 with the Bucks in that first round last year, but like they were falling apart at the seams. So they were laying it down for the Pacers, and the Pacers were able to just knock them out. But this Bucks team was not going to go away. This healthy Giannis Bucks led team is still a good team that can compete in a playoff series against all these other NBA teams, and they did so against the Pacers, down a man in Damian Lillard. And they came out, and I'm telling you, I don't know if I've seen a team that has been that down and out come out with that much intensity on the defensive end. That was the most intensity I think I've ever seen from an NBA team, let alone, in all of the games that I've ever watched, let alone just this series or this year. This was incredible by the Bucks. I mean, they came out and just flat out dogged the Pacers and took advantage of everything. And this starting rotation that Doc went with AJ Green, Giannis, Bobby Portis, Gary Trent Jr., Kevin Porter Jr., a switch in the lineup, taking Brook Lopez and Kyle Kuzma out, rotating them out of the starting lineup, who, they'd been a solid part of the starting rotation for most of the year. Not Kuzma, but Brook definitely, because obviously Kuzma comes over. Sorry, my cats were having a moment. But yeah, my that scared me. But and totally lost my train of thought. Oh, Kyle Kuzma comes over at the trade deadline, and I mean, really didn't do much for the Bucks, and he only ends up, really providing one game of assistance here in the playoffs. And they trade Chris Middleton midseason, a Bucks legend, somebody that'll go down as a Bucks legend, might get his jersey up in the rafters at some point for the Milwaukee Bucks. But Kyle Kuzma just didn't have it all season to really provide that extra lift. It was actually Kevin Porter Jr. that provided that lift that I think that the Bucks were looking for. And then Gary Trent Jr. has been a tremendous asset for them in this playoff series. And I think over the season did pretty well for himself. Not the level in which you saw him, I think, with Toronto, but in this playoff game, I mean, 2 games where he was just unconscious from 3 and really, I mean, impacted the games, won them one game and almost won them another one. And we'll get to that as we get further into the game. But at the end of the first quarter, 30-13, the Bucks were shooting 63%, 57 from 3. They hit 4 threes. They were just taking advantage of the Pacers every which way. They didn't really have, they didn't really have to do much offensively to score on the Pacers, and defensively, I think that's what's very concerning for Indiana looking forward. And Indiana just looked completely overmatched. I mean, it looked like they were playing against the varsity team as a middle school team. It was just every shot, every layup was being missed. Every 3 was being missed. Turnovers, 4 turnovers in the first quarter, not a good start for the Pacers. They were, a couple fouls here and there. They even got Giannis into foul trouble in the first quarter and didn't really impact anything. It was just one of the worst performances I think I've ever seen from an NBA team. 23% from the field, 12% from 3. They were 4 of 17 from the field, 1 of 8 from 3-point land. And again, just looked completely overmatched by this Bucks team who came out with a desperation, and the Pacers did not handle it well. There weren't really any adjustments besides the defensive intensity. They weren't doing anything defensively that I thought was, too tricky to navigate. A lot of just man-to-man up in your grill, and the Pacers just could not shake anybody loose. Screens stopped happening. The ball stopped moving. The pace was at the Bucks half-court pace. They were getting, I mean, there were multiple times where they got shot clock violations or were close to shot clock violations. It was the ugliest quarter I've ever seen of an offense, especially from this team, which was really concerning because, if teams start to match some of that intensity early on, they can really put the Pacers into a chokehold. And I think it's something, and kind of going back to my point, the inexperience of closing teams out. And this team's done this, and you've watched games. If you're listening to this podcast, you've watched the games this year. The Pacers have this tendency to let up off the gas and let teams back into things when they really shouldn't let them. And then they tried to speed back up. And oftentimes it worked this season. Last season's it's what got them into trouble against teams that they should have beaten last year, but they just didn't beat. Worse records. They ran into some of those issues this year, but they really started to clean that up and beat teams that they should have beaten. But they still would and over the last month or 2 months, they've had 3 or 4 games where they should have lost. I mean, the Obi Toppin 3 that was hit, the Nemhard 3, even the Halliburton 3 was against the Bucks. Like, And I know the Bucks are a good team at that point, but just these last minute wins because they've failed to close teams out or failed to play teams to their level. No, they play to their level. They don't play above the level that they should, the Pacers level that the Pacers should expect to play at every game. It was just, it was a train wreck in this first quarter. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, man, I mean, Cleveland's much better defensively than Milwaukee. Um, so I think that's definitely something that is a concern because we haven't seen them quite break out of that because there were still moments throughout the game where when the clamps came down, the offense looked really shaky. A lot of like congested pick and rolls where there were 3 or 4 guys and no spacing at all, and it was awful. I mean, Tyrese was trying his best to try to get around people, but I mean, Miles isn't setting, these clear picks. Pascal's not breaking free. Nemhard and Neesmith, they're not breaking loose from their defense. Like it felt like the Pacers were just never going to score. I think they start out, it was either 11-0 run or 13. I think it was 11-0 run. The Bucks did. And like there was a moment in this first quarter where every shot that was made, you could hear the anxiety and just the like despair in the arena. Like it was palpable. I mean, you could feel the, oh my gosh, are we ever gonna score? Like this is brutal. We're gonna get blown out of this game. Like that's what it felt like. It felt like, man, 30-13, there's no way the Bucks give this up. And then it went 33-13 because they hit a three to start. It just felt like, man, like the Pacers came into this game with the upper hand. They had the advantage coming home. The Bucks were dead to rights. Like all you had to do was keep even with them in the first quarter and then step on the gas in the second. And you would have put this team out in its misery and the game would have been over. But we let them do this to us. And then it was a fight the whole way through this game. And they end up getting closer into the second quarter. But I mean, in that first quarter, just the Bucks were getting everything and everybody's scoring. So 6 from AJ Green in the first. Giannis had 7. You had 3 from Bobby Portis, 6 from Gary Trent, 2 from Porter Jr., 2 for Sims, 2 for Kuzma, 2 for Lopez. They were getting buckets everywhere. They were getting rebounds, defensive rebounds. They weren't even getting offensive rebounds, so it wasn't like there were second chances being shot. I mean, this team just looked like a totally different team with that rotational change. It kind of makes you wonder, would this series have been closer if Doc had deployed that lineup, which that was the lineup a lot of the Bucks podcast were calling for and never truly got, obviously, as a starting rotation, but even the minutes that they played, it was kind of in the end of the game, and the Bucks were trying to climb out of deficits they had given themselves in the first couple of quarters, where it kind of reverse role here, where the Pacers were the ones trying to climb out of this huge deficit and ultimately do. But I feel like if the Bucks would have deployed this lineup, those 5 guys, this series I think would have been a lot closer. I just don't know what that looks like with the bench rotation, because there were moments when Giannis went out that their bench looked stifled, that they didn't really understand how to get buckets, especially when you had to rely on guys like Kevin Porter Jr., who I think at times takes really bad shots. Gary Trent carried them, AJ Green carries them, but those were the tale of like 2 halves. AJ Green in the first half was lights out. Again, he had 6 in that first quarter, hit the first 2 threes that he took. And I mean, it felt really bad as a Pacer fan, as somebody that covers the team. It just was, I'm on the podcast that released today to preview this game. It was just like the Pacers have to blow them out, right? But I called a 20-point blowout game, and it was nothing like that. I mean, this game was the closest game they played all series and down most of the game. So it was not a good feeling. Second quarter starts, and again, their guys continue to do pretty well, but they start to let the Pacers back into it. Early in the quarter, I felt like they did well. Once we hit a certain point, though, in that second quarter, the Pacers finally started to wake up. You finally start to get production from Aaron Neesmith. You get some points from Miles Turner. And the bench starts to come alive here in the second quarter, just a bit, like enough to get their confidence going, because in the third quarter this bench would be huge for the Pacers. But I mean, if it hadn't been for Aaron Nesmith in that second quarter, Miles Turner, and even Tyrese really started getting the ball moving, had 3 assists in that third or the second quarter. It felt like finally they were starting to get up off the floor after being sucker punched. And it was a 28-17 quarter. So they locked down defensively. It wasn't until the bench unit came in that the bench started to stabilize the defense, which was really weird because that's not really a good defensive unit. That bench unit plus Pascal, it's not really known for its defense, but it stabled the ship a little bit. And it felt finally, it felt like, all right, well, if we can get this down to like 10 or 12, we should be fine. And the Pacers did. They got it down to a margin in which I thought, okay, we can do this. This is not a deficit that we haven't seen before. So going into halftime, it was 47 to 41. So the Pacers cut it down to a 6-point lead, which is totally manageable. And I will say this Pacer team, for some of the struggles that they usually have in the first half and getting slow starts has kind of been their thing. And that's the characteristics of a young team, is these slow starts where you're not taking it as seriously, you're not as focused, you let teams get out ahead, then you're climbing back and clawing into the game, and sometimes you fall short. But this team had been pretty good about overcoming those challenges in the first half because their second half adjustments, this is where I think when people really get into what Rick Carlisle is as a coach and why he's a Hall of Fame coach and a championship coach, is his adjustments are far better than any other coaches around the league. There's not many coaches that can coach with Rick Carlisle. And so going in with a 6-point deficit, I felt pretty good. I was like, all right, they're going to come out. They're going to have gotten chewed out for that first quarter. A little bit of like, see what we're doing in the second quarter though? Like, that's the level of intensity we need. I mean, that bench unit, that's the kind of bench production we need. And that's the bench unit that was productive last year. Is basically the same bench unit. You just mix in Benedict Mathurin and Jarris Walker postseason from last year. So, I mean, that was a bench that, I mean, you felt that if the Pacers starters kept even, that their bench would just roll teams over. That's what this felt like. I mean, they didn't score a whole ton in the first half, the bench unit, but they stabilized the defensive side of the ball, and I felt like got some great stops. They weren't as effective offensively, scoring 17 points. I mean, that was huge for the Pacers defense to finally get the pulse back for this Pacer team, because I if they go out there and it's 28-28, the Pacers still down 17. They really could have just, I mean, obliterated the Pacers in the first half and made this a series by taking it back and really not taking their foot off the gas. But they eventually do multiple times, and that's something that I think, as a Bucks fan, you're looking at it and saying this team just can't go on as currently constructed. They've got some nice role pieces, but if you're having to rely on AJ Green and Gary Trent Jr. to go off, and Bobby Portis Jr. to just have these games where they're scoring 25, 30 points, that's just not sustainable for them. They've never really done that in this league. So to expect them to do so in a playoff series, it's not going to happen. And I can't believe Gary Trent did it twice. I cannot believe that he went off as much as he did in this game. And maybe some concern for the Pacers. But the biggest thing with that is I think you're going to see a noticeable difference in the way that the Pacers can defend against the Cavs versus how they defend against the Bucks. Defending the Bucks, because they don't have a person that can go one-on-one with Giannis, I do feel like it is hard to contain Giannis without double teaming him. And when you're double teaming him and at least making it more difficult for him to get to the lane, you're leaving these wide open shooters wide open. I mean, you have to pick. There was moments in the first half and second half they were choosing between AJ Green and Gary Trent Jr. They were loading the weak side up, and as Giannis would go, he would turn to find one of them on the weak side, hit AJ Green, and if AJ Green was open, he was shooting. If Gary Trent was open, AJ Green was kicking it over to Gary. Like it kept working in that advantage, and that's something that the Pacers were lucky, because those two, besides that game 3 game that Gary Trent went off, they really weren't hitting those big shots that they needed to hit to really cause the Pacers problems defensively. In this game, they both were hitting. So it was like, oh no, like this is what you don't want. This Giannis's ability to get to the rim, because people would say, well, then if they're making all their shots and they have 20 plus points each, that must have meant Giannis didn't play well or didn't get as many points. Well, he ends the game with 30 points, 20 rebounds, and 13 assists. So Giannis was perfectly fine. And again, I just felt like this Pacer team, for what they were doing, it was just not going to work as the series went on, because he was eventually going to start finding these options, and there was that chance of them hitting big shots. It just so happens on the road, they stepped up in a huge way, and it caused the Pacers so many problems defensively, because now you have to worry about two threats. And then Kevin Porter Jr. could have those moments where he's hitting shots as well. You also had to worry about Bobby Portis Jr., who didn't shoot the ball as well as obviously the other two, but still provides a lift for them offensively. And so when they're going like that, they're a very difficult team to beat. That was the team that I think they were on an 8-game win streak before the playoffs. That was that lineup that was being deployed. And that pretty much that lineup played like almost the whole fourth quarter in most of those games they were closing out. And you saw it finally put as a starting rotation, and it excelled. I thought it was a really good starting lineup. It's a very difficult lineup to defend because those guys can shoot. And that's what Giannis needs. Giannis needs shooters around him. So when they're talking about, where do the Bucks go from here? And I'm not going to get too far into this, but like, where do the Bucks go from here? I think you've either got to surround him with better shooters, maybe a player that's more of a star shooter, not necessarily a person that needs the ball in their hand all the time, because Giannis needs the ball. But if you had like if you're looking at Bobby Porter, not Bobby, if you're looking at somebody that could do that, you're looking at like a Devin Booker, maybe Cam Johnson. Like, that's why you hear all these teams that have shooters. That's where you hear Giannis being rumored to, like Golden State with Steph. Like, I could see something like that working, where those guards don't necessarily need the ball all the time and can spot up and hit threes, because he can make it very difficult on teams, because he causes teams to have to double them a lot. So, but as I was saying, I mean, it was a perfect storm for this Bucks team. But luckily, in the second quarter, the Pacers finally started to find a little bit of rhythm offensively once that starting unit got back after their first win and woke up a little bit. And I think took some energy from the bench players who were starting to mix in with some of the starters, who really were the biggest difference, I think, in this game. Had it not been for this bench, the Pacers lose this game, and it's going to game 6 to Milwaukee. So a huge performance by some of these bench guys. You flip over to the third quarter, and in the third quarter, the Pacers start to mount their comeback. So you're getting good performances from guys that you really needed to step up, especially guys like TJ McConnell, who had 6 points in the third quarter. You get a really good quarter from Andrew Nembhard, Halliburton, and Turner. McConnell had 6, Halliburton and Turner had 7, Nembhard had 8 points. So you're getting great production. The offense is starting to really click. You're getting a good quarter, 34-point quarter. And at the end of the third, it was dead even at 75. I felt really good about it because the Pacers had finally drawn even. I felt like they were starting to throw bigger punches. They started to get a little bit of separation here and there, like a 3-point lead or a 4-point lead. I was like, okay, if we can do that, we can maybe get it to a 6 or 8-point lead. And then I felt very comfortable about where the Pacers were going to go after that. But it never got there. The Pacers would get up 4, miss a couple of shots. Giannis would score or get fouled. They'd hit a huge 3. It seemed like they were always hitting 3s when we get up by 4 or 5 to bring it back down. I think at one point it was even like a 7-point lead for both teams at some point, and big 3s were hit by both teams. Just a very back and forth contest, game of runs, as you would say. But again, I felt good at the end of the third, heading into the fourth quarter, and the fourth quarter was crazy. The fourth quarter was off its rocker. TJ McConnell continued to play well in this quarter, the fourth quarter, as he had some minutes left that he played first half of the fourth quarter before Tyrese gets back in. He had 6 points. Halliburton has 6 points in the fourth. Siakam, 6 points in the fourth quarter. And this is when it started to get really interesting, back and forth game. At times, the Pacers would trail. I think they got down to at one point, we're down by 7, got it down to 4. Um, a couple missed free throws here and there. Giannis missed a free throw. The Pacers start to climb back. They get back into it. The Pacers look like they're going to go on a run. They can't quite get it. At the end of the quarter into regulation, the Pacers end up scoring to tie it up. And then Giannis gets the last shot, and Giannis takes it baseline, and he spins. And I'm like, oh no, like same kind. I think it was the exact same corner that Tyrese was in when he hit his shot against the Bucks. He turns and fades over Miles, and Neesmith comes flying over to help him. And luckily, he missed it. He clanked it. But I mean, I did. I thought it was like 10 seconds left that they had to get a shot, and I was like, this is going to be bad, because he's either going to drive it down to the baseline or down into the middle of the paint, and then he's just going to kick it because he's got all sorts of shooters, and the Pacers are just going to collapse because they're going to think he's going to take the last shot. I was like, I don't know who's going to take the last shot. Maybe he doesn't take that last shot. Maybe he kicks it out to an AJ Green that's hitting firing on all cylinders, or Gary Trent. But nope. Aaron Neesmith, as soon as he starts to kind of go into his movement to the baseline, Neesmith noticed that his head kind of turns where he's not really looking to pass the ball, and Neesmith just takes off, and he goes towards Giannis, and he's able to kind of contest with Miles, and he tries to go up over him. Ends up missing, but AJ Green was wide open with like 3 seconds left, and I thought for sure Giannis was just going to go, you shoot it, because I'm getting double teamed. But he tried to go up over both of them, ends up missing it. And I was like, gosh, we were lucky on that one. Maybe in overtime, that's when we start to pick up that intensity. Tyrese Halliburton hits a 3 to start that overtime period, and I felt really good. I was like, all right, this is where the Pacers really start to pull away. Like the Bucks had their chance. Pacers are going to do their thing right here. And I thought for sure, but then a whole minute almost comes off the clock after Tyrese's 3, and Gary Trent hits a 3-pointer to make it 106-106. Then Pascal Siakam goes down, misses an 8-foot shot. I was like, oh no, like this can't be happening. Gary Trent, 251 mark, hits another 3. 2 back-to-back threes for Gary Trent Jr. And then a lot of time goes off the clock. You go from 251 to 146, and on the 146 mark, Gary Trent Jr. hit another 3. Pacers go down by 6. It's 112-106. At this point, Gary Trent, after the one prior that made it 109, he's yelling at the crowd. They're going nuts. Like the Bucks are going crazy over on the sideline. And then the next one's hit, and then now he's yelling at the fans, and there's a timeout. 145 left when those Pacers take the timeout. Gary Trent just letting the fans have it. Like, what's up? Walking around the court. I was like, oh no, not again. I was like, are you serious? Like, he's up to 30 points at this point. I was like, can we not? I mean, he's already had his game. He's had his moment. Why is he having another moment? You get these players that go on these heaters. You're like, why? Why him? It just seems to always happen. And you get these guys that are just these real streaky shooters, role players that just all of a sudden burst, just a huge burst of offense. And I mean, kudos to Gary Trent. And I don't mind him. I think he's a really good competitor. He's always been a thorn for the Pacers. Every time we go up against him, like, oh no. But he was 8 of 17 from 3. So he had 8 threes again. I think he had 9 in the last one because he tied Ray Allen's record. He was 1 off tying Ray Allen his own record again for postseason 3-pointers in a game. But they go up 112-106. And at this point, I'm like, okay, I don't think the Pacers can withstand this now. Like, this has been enough. That first quarter. Oh, and I didn't mention this. Pacers missed like 6 free throws. Like 3 times they went to the free throw stripe and missed both of their 3 free throws. Pascal did it. Was it Miles? I think it was Pascal, Miles, and Ben. went to the and came away empty-handed on the trips to the free throw line. So they were, and that was right in that stretch in the first and second quarter where it was just like, you can't win games like that, not in the postseason. Like, you can't go to trips or you can't get trips to the free throw line and miss both. Like, it just can't happen. But anyway, so it's 112, 106, and you start to think back to the first quarter. You think back to the missed free throws. You go back to the Pacers got a nice lead in the third and a moment in the fourth where they had a good lead where I thought, okay, put them away. And they didn't. They let the Bucks into it. And again, there's times where, and Tyrese played a heck of a game, especially at the end here when we're getting ready to get into all of it. But I mean, there's just times where the Pacers get three happy where I think they try to put the game away or they try to take and make big shots and they just don't hit them. And then that causes the breakdown in defense, getting back on assignments, allows the Bucks to kind of get out in transition and go. Allows Giannis to run downhill more and create more obstacles for the Pacers. But I just feel like there's times where they can go for the death kill, and I don't know. The kill shot's just never there, and that's something I think that the Pacers really need to. You don't work on that, but you need somebody that's going to hit that shot, right? It's usually Tyrese, and he did hit those shots, but in those moments, they become a little too reliant where they'll take two or three in a row, and you're like, well, okay, like you miss one, try to get to the rim. Then if you get another open one, bad thing is they do get really open looks back to back to back often against a bad Bucks team because they just don't play defense and Tyrese can really create on the offensive end. But anyway, back to it. Timeout. 145 is left. I'm sitting there thinking, and probably you guys too, sitting there thinking like, this is not good. We're going to go into game 6. The Bucks place is going to be bouncing off the wall at Pfizer Forum. Giannis is going to have a 40-point game. He's going to be hyped. The Bucks are going to destroy us with this lineup that they've finally Doc figured out he could play together. I don't know what was going on there, but it just smelled of game 7. Like, I was like, this is going to go to his 7th game, I think. Like, I'm not feeling good about where this is headed. Aaron Nesmith comes out and drills a 3 5 minutes after the timeout. It's 112, 109, 140 left. And I'm like, all right, Pacers back in it. And then Kevin Porter Jr. loses the ball. Andrew Nembhard knocks it away from him. A great steal. And this is where Kevin Porter Jr. is just a liability. And this is where a lot of their role players turned into liabilities. I mean, they were all making mistakes at this point. Kevin Porter Jr. loses the ball. Tyrese Halliburton goes down, misses a shot. There was one moment he just blew a layup. I think that was the fourth quarter, though. But, I mean, just missing shots that he should have made. Doesn't make this, but he'll redeem himself shortly. Aaron Nesmith gets the tip-in shot and makes it 112, 111. So you're feeling pretty good. 10 seconds later, Gary Trent hits another one. And now the Bucks are up 4. It's 115, 111, 108 left. He is that. I think this is when he's walking down the court screaming like a madman. No. This is the one where he's just silently looking at him like, yeah. Now what? And I felt like then it was over. I was like, okay, this just can't keep happening. Like, there's no way the Pacers can keep answering this. Sure enough, they come back. 47 seconds left. Giannis makes a 2-point shot at the rim. Nice little layup. After Miles misses a 3, goes up 117, 111. 47 seconds left. It didn't feel good. That was the real moment of like, all right, they're down 6. They've got to hit a really quick shot or this is over. They come down. Halliburton shoots a 3. He misses. Goes off to Giannis. Giannis gets it. They foul Giannis or foul AJ Green. Sorry. AJ Green makes 1 of 2. It's 118, 111, 40 seconds left. People are filing out of Gamebridge. Thing's over. Pack it up, go to game 6. Let's get that intensity back. We'll be fine. Just gotta, can't lose 2 straight. Can't lose 2 more. We're losing game 5. Can't lose 6 and 7. And AJ Green misses free throw number 2. Pascal gets the rebound, throws it out, Andrew Nemhard comes down because we got to get a shot quick, right? 34 seconds left. Nemhard pulls up from 33 feet, buries it almost to the logo, and just nails it. Right, nothing but net right through it. And Bucks call timeout. 32 seconds left because they can't get the ball in bounds. It's like, oh, good. It was good that they called a timeout because I think it was Giannis. Yeah, it was Giannis that was inbounding. He was going for Kevin Porter Jr. Nemhard was in front, face guarding, and they wanted him to try to throw the lob over Kevin Porter. Then this is right before Doc's taking the timeout, and Giannis launches it, and all of a sudden you hear the announcers go, "Oh, they got the timeout! They got the timeout!" And the play kept going. Neesmith came up and intercepted the pass, and the Pacers would have had an easy layup. And it was just like, oh man, we had it. But now they're gonna inbound it. We're gonna have to foul them, and then hope that they miss more free throws. But yeah, they call a timeout. Jarris Walker comes in. Pascal Siakam had 5 fouls in the overtime period, so he comes in. Gary Trent Jr. Gets the ball, and they trap him. And it's Tyrese and Neesmith, I think, or Tyrese and Pascal. It's one of the two, one of those two. It was definitely Tyrese, but I can't remember who else was it. I think it was Neesmith. They trap him on the sideline, and it's to a point where he's going down the sideline towards the corner, and he turns real quick, and he kind of he's starting to lose his balance because they're trapping him pretty tight. So he's falling out of bounds, and he jumps and he throws it because he saw Kevin Porter Jr. initially trailing him, and he turns to throw it, and Nemhard steps in and grabs it, and the Pacers steal it, get it up the court quickly, and Tyrese makes a driving layup with 17 seconds. It's 118-116. People starting to come down from the concourse again. You could see them filing back in because they're going nuts. And they fouled Tyrese on the free throw or the driving layup. So they foul him. Tyrese makes 101. It's 117. So it's 118-117. Pacers got back in the game. It's a miracle it's happened. So now you're just thinking, we got to foul them. Hope they miss one, get a 2, or hope they miss both, just hit a 2. Or if they hit both, we just need a 3 to tie, right? They get the ball in bounds. I believe it's Kevin Porter that gets the inbounds, or Portis Jr., and they throw it up to AJ Green. AJ Green's at the half court line. And then he turns, and I'm like, oh, he's going to find Gary Trent, and then they're just going to foul him. He'll definitely make 2 free throws. Pacers are going to need to bury a 3 to tie it and send it to double OT. He turns to throw it. 2 possessions in a row. Gary Trent turns it over. It goes to his legs, and it's a horrible pass. It's an awful pass, but it was because AJ Green was getting double teamed by, I think it was Nemhard and Neesmith were converging at once on him, and Tyrese is flying over towards Gary Trent, or Miles, and they throw it down at his legs, his knee, in between his legs, but really low. And it's a hard pass to catch if it's got velocity, and it goes through his fingertips, hits his fingertips, and rolls through his legs out of bounds by the Bucks bench. Pacers got the ball. 10 seconds left. 10 seconds left. Tyrese gets a screen. He's got Giannis on him. He's taking Giannis. I don't know if he's going to pull up, try to hit a shot, jumper. And all of a sudden, he puts a nasty crossover on him and one quick step and just blows by Giannis. Giannis tries to catch him, can't get to him. Kevin Porter kind of fades over to try to stop him, but not allow Pascal to get the ball because he's guarding Pascal. So it's oh no. So I can't really leave him open either. He's stuck in between. Tyrese gets right to the rack and makes the layup with 1 second left. And then they inbound the ball, and I think it was AJ Green shoot, or it was Gary Trent shoots I think it's 70-footer. It was right at the other free throw line, but further out towards the sideline, and he missed it completely. So Pacers going to win, and there was pandemonium on the floor. I mean, people are going nuts. The fans are going crazy. And you see security out there, but then you also see very quickly somebody else is out there. You can't really tell who it is. But then Tyrese jumps up on the press table and he's going crazy, and Toppin and Turner are jumping up and down, and the bench is all over the place jumping up and down. And then they start to do their handshakes and stuff like that. Nothing really happens. You can tell there's a lot of respect between Bobby Portis and all the other guys on the Pacers team. There were a lot of, hands and handshakes and hugs, and, good series. And although very competitive, I mean, they're just basketball players at the end of the day. They're not looking to really truly fight each other. But then all of a sudden you start to see it get a little dicey. And then, it kind of cuts away. They do the interview, and Tyrese is being like, they're interviewing people. You can't really tell what's going on. But then on Twitter, you see like different angles from different people in the stadium and different camera views. Then it starts to show what's happening. And there's a skirmish at half court, and it's between Ben and Giannis and Kevin Porter Jr. And at first, you just see Kevin Porter Jr. in the middle of all the Pacers, like shoving everybody. And you're like, okay, Kevin Porter started something. But then it shows a replay. It was actually Giannis came over to Ben and gave him a handshake. And Giannis was being, I think, very serious and very like, hey, good game, like good series. This was a hard fought win. And then you can see Ben say something to him. And then Giannis flipped. Like Giannis was like, okay, like I was trying to be nice. Now you're being a jerk. So he starts talking with Ben. And then, because like grabbed Ben by the neck, but it wasn't like, it was kind of like when you go to hug somebody, he's like, you tap him on the head. He like grabbed him right here. And it was like a hug, but like I could tell Ben didn't really like it. So Ben kind of like says something and shoves Giannis, and then Giannis gets into it. And then of course everybody flies over there. So then they're getting into it again. Jarris Walker's in there, James Johnson shows up, and then it starts to disperse again. But Kevin Porter Jr. is in there shoving everybody he can possibly shove, because he's like, this is great. My season's over. I'm just going to try to knock somebody over. I don't know what he was doing. He looked crazy, but they get them all separated. Brooke Lopez is over there hugging Boomer and talking to Boomer, and then Boomer saying something to Brooke Lopez, and Brooke's like, what's happening? It was weird. Like, it was very strange. And you can see the coaches like, we got a series left, and the Bucks coaches are like, come on, let's just get out of here. Like, it's over. Let's go. It was just chaotic. And then finally a clip comes out to show like what really started it. So John Halliburton, who sits underneath the stanchion, sits with his family, Tyrese's family, girlfriend, and usually like Pat McAfee and them are all over there. The celebrities usually sit over there with the Halliburtons. And John's very vocal. He loves his son. I mean, he's very supportive of Ty. He's not like, people are like, oh, it's like a LeVar Ball situation. He's not like that. Like, he's not, he typically will talk a little trash, but he's got really good relationships with a lot of players. Like, you go around the league, there's multiple times, and if you're not a Pacer fan, you don't really see this side of John Halliburton where, I mean, he's hugging players and giving players a hard time, and people love him. They always go over to see him because they like Tyrese. Like, Anthony Edwards always goes over to John, hugs John and Tyrese's family, and his mom's always over there. And it was funny because his mom actually looked at John like, what are you doing? Get off the court. So he goes out on the court, and he's got the Tyrese Halliburton towel, and it's got Ty on the front. And he stands, like, Giannis is like by the, like, I guess right in the middle of the paint at the end of the game. And while the Pacers are celebrating, like, Giannis is kind of just having this moment of like reflection. And John comes out and he like stands. And I don't think Giannis quite knew at first who it was, because he kind of looks at him like, what in the world? And security comes out with him. Like, what are you doing? Like, you can't be out here, because the camera crews are coming out there too. So security's kind of like, what are you doing? Like, get out of the way. And John holds up Tyrese's flag in front of Giannis and is saying something. And then Giannis kind of looks at him like, what are you doing? So he kind of like takes a couple steps towards him. And then I think it's Pat Connaughton comes over and like grabs Giannis and like, come on, like, let's go. Let's just leave. He whatever. Let John do whatever. But then at the end of that, whatever happened, that hoopla, like, John gets over on the sideline, and Giannis goes back over to him and is like, what are you doing? Like, and they get like face to face, like head to head. Like, Giannis is touching John Halliburton's head with his head. And you can tell it's not a friendly, at first, very friendly conversation. And then towards the end, you kind of get like Giannis like realizing what's happening, and he kind of backs off him like, whatever, dude. And he gives him a thumbs up like, yeah, whatever. But John is still chirping. there's more now that's come out because obviously there's done some post game. Tyrese is very frustrated with his father, as one probably would be. I mean, these guys they're grown men, they're competing. But Tyrese said he's going to have a very difficult conversation with his dad, and he's going to text and call Giannis because he feels bad. Because Giannis, I mean, for the most part, Giannis does not involve himself unless people are being like what John Halliburton did, and when he thinks that people are personally attacking him, then he gets into it. But he doesn't really get caught up in the Bobby Portis stuff. And actually, Bobby Portis and Kevin Porter were kind of like chirping at the end of the game when they're shaking hands. And Giannis is kind of like, nah, like cut that out. Like it's over, man. We're competitors. Let's just ball and let's leave. Like Giannis never gets caught up in that kind of stuff. He did in this one. He was not happy with John Halliburton. So we'll see what happens. I'm pretty sure Halliburton will pay a fine. But we'll see. I don't know how that works with family members getting on the court. I don't know what Cambridge can do. Like Cambridge could suspend him for, make him not sit there. Like I don't know what the repercussions are for that. And it's not going to be anything like that causes Ty to miss games or anything like that. But there's going to be something that comes down like a fine for the Pacers or a fine for John Halliburton or, don't enter the court of play or a restriction from those sideline seats for a little bit. Like something will happen. And we might not hear about it, but it was very interesting. Ty was not happy that his dad did that. So, but man, what a wild game. I mean, from start to finish, it was just crazy. I mean, the fact that the Pacers only scored 13 points in the first quarter at home in game 5 to close out the series, you score 13 points. I tweeted, I was like, this is embarrassing. You're just getting absolutely embarrassed on your home floor where you're very good. It didn't make any sense. They look shell shocked. They look like they come out, the Bucks had come out as monsters and, had some kind of special potion they were drinking. Like they just look completely outmatched. And I was lost. I was lost for words. Like I just didn't know what to do. But I wanted to jump on here and talk about it right after the game. So I'm recording this late at night and thoughts are not coming as quickly to my head, but what an incredible game. Just ugly, really good, ugly again, really good. It was a roller coaster of emotions. I mean, I would never want to experience it again. I will watch like the first or like the last 40 seconds again, but I will not. I won't think about this game that much besides the way that it ended coming up. So again, I'm just really excited the Pacers were finally able to pull this off. It felt like a roller coaster ride. We were finally able to get off of it. Like you were real nauseous. You were getting sick on the ride and they were like, finally we can get off this thing. That's what it felt like. But yeah, Pacers win 119-118, eliminate the Bucks. Bucks are out of the postseason, I think, for the third straight year in the first round. There will be questions about Giannis's future. Where does he end up? Does he want to leave? What do they try to bring in? Because they don't really have the resources to bring people in because they will hit the aprons. It's a mess in Milwaukee, and this was really their last punching chance to do anything. Dame goes down in game 4. What a disaster for the Bucks, and I feel bad for their fans. Obviously, there's no love lost between the teams, but that's just not a good situation for any sports fan to be in, where the future is just so bleak, and I'm not sure Giannis will be there next year. So we'll see what happens. We'll follow that storyline throughout the summer, but we are done with the Bucks as far as just getting into in-depth discussion about the Milwaukee Bucks. We're gone. We're good. We're gone. We're done with them. Forget about them. They don't exist right now. We're going to move on to the Cleveland Cavaliers, and that's who the next matchup will be. They have home court advantage, so the first 2 games will be in Cleveland. Pacers are going to want to steal one of those games. Game 1 is usually your best bet to try to steal one because they're just not ready for what you've got prepared for them in game 1. But game 2 is another game you can steal, obviously. It's just a little bit more difficult because they're a little bit more ready for what that next punch might be. So it's going to be a really tough series. I really don't know how it's going to shake out, to be honest with you. I mean, and we'll talk about this in our preview. So how this is going to work, I'm not going to preview any of it. I just wanted to say we're going to move on to the Cleveland Cavaliers. It'll probably be, I think, May 3rd or 4th. I think they're going to move the series technically up because it usually, I think, would start like the 5th, 6th, or 7th, 8th, or something like that. It was supposed to start, but because both series were short, they'll move those up, I think. So I think we'll be playing May 3rd or 4th. We'll get national broadcast because it's the number 1 seed, so that'll be nice. But it'll be Pacers, Cavs. Cavs, a very good team. They absolutely destroyed the Miami Heat. We'll talk about that. We'll preview the series, the actual overall series, give my predictions, give some keys, talk about what the Cavs do, what they try to deploy, all those fun things, talk about the matchups from the last season. But really, the Pacers and Cavs haven't really played each other at full strength or with the current rosters that are currently constructed. So it should be pretty interesting. We don't really know much about how they're going to play against each other because they haven't really played each other with these same units. So very interesting discussions coming up about the Cavs. That preview will drop. I'm probably going to record that probably Wednesday. Yeah. So tomorrow night, I'll be recording the Cavs Pacers preview. We'll do that. It'll probably be like an hour and a half. It'll be a little bit probably longer of an episode just because there's so much to talk about. We'll recap their series prior. So when they played the Heat, there's not much to really recap. There's a couple things that come from that series that's very interesting and show how good this team is. So a lot of work ahead to do for these Indiana Pacers. But tonight we go to bed thinking about Tyrese Halliburton's layup to knock the Bucks out. Once again, the Indiana Pacers have ended the Milwaukee Bucks season, this time in fun fashion, 4-1. And Game 5, one of the most thrilling playoff games I think that I've ever been a part of, unfortunately. It should not have been this way tonight, but it was, and we'll live with it. A win's a win. You won't look back at this series and go, ooh, but you remember that Game 5 was rough. You'll remember this series as we beat the Bucks to advance to try to take down the Cavs. We beat the Cavs. We're in really good shape. So I think that's it for tonight. Just wanted to jump on right after the game where my thoughts are a little bit fresh, but it's late. So I don't know if half of the stuff I said made sense. It's almost 11 o'clock. So thanks for listening. If you made it this far, we really appreciate the support. If you've not followed us over on Instagram, Facebook, or X, I am on all those platforms. We are also on YouTube. You can subscribe and comment. You can see the video and a rundown recap. Subscribe, comment, share with your friends that might be Pacer fans. Really looking forward to engaging with fans over there and building out this community. And then if you want to listen to the podcast version of this, obviously we're on Apple Podcast and Spotify or anywhere you get your podcast. So thanks for listening to those. If you have done so already, make sure to rate over on Apple and Spotify. It helps people find us. And if you throw the thumbs up on the video over on YouTube, that will also help people find us. But we really do appreciate people who have listened so far. One last thing before I dip out of here, I'm still looking for a co-host. So if you're interested in joining the show as a co-host, we will be doing Indiana Fever and Indiana Pacers coverage throughout their seasons, postseasons, and preseasons. So if you're looking forward to jumping on with me and talking some Pacers, shoot me a message. If you want to be a co-host full-time or you talk Pacers or talk Fever or talk both, I'm looking for co-host to help me out with this show. So send me a message. I'm more than happy to sit down and talk to you about possibly joining. But other than that, thanks for listening this long, and I hope some of that made sense. It was a really exciting game. Can't wait to catch some sleep because got to get ready for this Cleveland. I'm going to do that a lot. Cleveland Cavaliers series, because it will be probably one of the best series of these NBA playoffs from everything that I am predicting. It will be a very fun one. So looking forward to discussing that and previewing that. But good night. Have a good sleep. And hopefully the Pacers did not stress us all out too much. That being said, let's go Pacers. Keep it going. Beat those Cavs. See you next time.